One of the most important things in your body that you need to keep clean that people don't pay attention to is your entire sinus system. So, you have your sinuses here on the side of the nose. They go out to about here. Then they go up above your nose, across your forehead, and right down to the front of your ears. So your sinus cavity is very significant. Now, why does the body have sinuses? Because the majority of the air you're breathing is going to come in through your nose. You're not walking around with your mouth open all day breathing. You're breathing primarily through your nose. And that regulates the temperature of your breath that's going in. It's very good to breathe through your nose. But the problem is you're breathing in all these contaminants that are in the air. And over your lifetime, by the time you're 20 years old, it's like the sinus cavity gets filled up with all this debris that builds up and it gets into the tissue of the sinuses as well. And so it's your responsibility to clean it out. If you have a furnace filter in your house, you got to replace it every so often. If you don't, then that filter can't filter out anymore. It loses its efficiency, and then everything bypasses, and then all the contaminants go down into your lungs. And people get postnasal drip, they get all kinds of sinus problems. Most people, when they breathe, only one nostril is open at a time. They breathe, and it's either going to be the right one or the left one, or it's going to alternate. And that shouldn't be that way at all. Both of your nostrils should be able to get air completely clear through. Like when I breathe in right now, both of my nostrils are perfectly wide open. Everything works perfectly. I get no postnasal drip. But I went through a protocol and I did it for 90 days. This goes back like 7 years now. And I use a thing called Perfect Nasal. And all I did was for 90 days, and I actually only needed to do for 80 days. But I didn't know that until I went the last 10 days and nothing came out of my sinuses anymore. I literally cleaned out my entire sinus cavity entirely, beside the nose, forehead, all the way to the front of the ears. And it took a very long time for this garbage to come out because it's layered in there and it gets impacted. And I used to only have one nostril that worked very poorly for a very long period of time. And so when I went through this protocol, within the first week, I felt like I had a brand new head on my shoulders. It had that much impact in 1 week because it got that first layers in here cleaned out. It also cleaned out all the unfriendly microbial garbage that is in the sinus, and that caused quite a bit of heat when I first used it. I thought that the Perfect Nasal was something in it that made it feel hot in the body, but it wasn't. That was just the die-off of all that unfriendly bacteria that was emitting heat because it's a living thing that you have inside your head. And my perception, my vision, everything improved dramatically because you're talking eyes, ears, nose, throat that is dynamically affected by plugged up sinuses. Now so I'm 66 right now. I was in my late 50s, like 58, 59 when I did this. And it was one of the best quality of life increases I've ever had. And so you just simply do that. So if you're younger, like say you're 30, it's only going to take you maybe like 30 to 40 days instead of like 80 days like it did for me. It just depends on how long you've been breathing through your sinuses. So you definitely want to get that. It's called Perfect Nasal. We have it available. You just got to make sure that that's what you do. And it's so simple. Every day when I woke up in the morning, I would lay on my back on my bed, put my head over the side of the bed with my shoulders a little bit off the edge, tip my head upside down, puts 12 sprays into each nostril, goes into the nasal area, and it is liquid, and it just simply soothed and cleaned layer after layer after layer. You lay there for 3 minutes, you sit up, you blow all this stuff out of your sinuses, and then that's it for the day. And the next day you do it again and again. So I never missed it for 90 days, and I've been clear ever since. So I got a lifetime of plugged up sinuses completely cleaned out front to back. And it was just a massive upgrade of quality of life in so many different ways. So it allowed me to think clearer. It just improved everything. When you got all this black soot and stuff in your sinus cavity, it messes with you. One of the weird phenomena, back in the 90s, between 1994 and 2002, I owned a small company that we manufactured very expensive high-end circular staircases in houses. And that exposed me to a huge amount of this different hardwood dusts. And one of the big ones that we used was oak, because you see a lot of oak in staircases, and a lot of hard maple. I noticed after about a month of doing this treatment. In about 30 days, all of a sudden I started to smell a whole bunch of maple and oak. And I was like, what is that? That reminds me of my woodworking days. And it was exactly that. All those layers had gone in and built up during that time of my life. And they were sitting there waiting for all the layers to come out. And when that released, I literally was smelling maple and oak for days at a time before that finally went away. So all these microbial things and all these microscopic particles that build up, you just want to get it out of your body. So you want a huge life upgrade? This is one of the biggest ones out there for your eyes, ears, nose, throat. And I've never had postnasal drip ever since. The sore throat thing doesn't even exist because sore throats comes from that postnasal drip constantly contaminating because that filter is plugged up and you just start bypassing all the junk into your system.